Okay, now we're in my test classroom, and we're going to kind of take a look around once we start a class and kind of see some of the buttons that are available to us. So once again, that's how we get back to the dashboard. This top section is for kind of editing that particular class and what you want to do with it. You can add teachers, students, you can create little breakout room concepts, you can do your allow block list. Now, what we're going to do is look at this row of options. So first, we've got start. This would start the class. Now some parts become active. You can kind of see that there are students who aren't active and students who are. 2, the heads up button. A heads up button, when you click it, essentially what it's supposed to do is, as it says here, for the selected duration, opens a page which informs the whole class to pay attention. So essentially, if we hit this, it would tell all these students that are currently on to stop doing what they're doing on their computer and look up. The share and enforce button. This is so that you could either share a page out to all the students or enforce a page. Now it says enforce, it says all other tabs will be automatically closed. Initiating and enforce will cancel heads up and vice versa. Over here, this is just kind of like an open that page on everybody's device. You can even select a group, and then you can send either, like I said, enforce, or you can share. Enforce, from what I'm to understand, is should take over their screen versus being able to click off and go to other stuff. A message all, you can do messages to the entire class. The assessment button is pretty neat. The assessment button allows you to enforce certain URLs, whitelist certain URLs, but you can pick out of these web apps and assessments. So for example, if you are probably going to be utilizing Google Classroom, it makes an automatic whitelist. If you need to add another field, let's say you're also going to be using Nearpod, it'll make that list. And this basically creates an enforced whitelist situation. You can send it to a group only, or you can do the whole class. And when you confirm that and run that assessment preset, they would only be allowed to go to those particular sites. So that's sort of a different take on the allow block list, is putting it into an assessment scenario. Share screen. You could share your screen with your students. I am not totally certain the difference between share screen and share screen over here. My early testing seems to be that this would be you're sending them a tab to look at. This would be forcing them to look at a particular tab and lock it. But I'm not totally certain what share screen would do that Gmeet's share screen couldn't, but we'll keep testing. Now, conference, this is essentially what I'm supposed to understand here is this is essentially like a Gmeet component within Blocksi, something to experiment with if you're interested. Now, after that, you can do stuff on each particular tab. So, for example, if we hover over Mr. Ferguson here, you'll see various things he has open. And if you hover over them, you can close it. You can go to that. You can add it to the allow list or add it to the block list. Now, we had a teacher accidentally block someone from something they needed to be able to use. So if we hit this block and it accidentally blocks something very important, it puts it up here in this block list, and you can just remove it and it will go automatically right back. So one of the cool things is you can build a block allow list ahead of time and create sort of rules ahead of time, or you can, in the moment, see something that shouldn't be going on. Like if you're like, okay, Cammy's bad, you can add it to the block list in the moment and it adds to the block list up here. And you can save that for later or whatever you want to do. Down here, you can take a screenshot. You can do the share and force tab button. You can send a message. You can do the heads up button. You can hit the assessment and put that student in the assessment preset. So you'll notice it'll just put that student in the assessment preset. And then you can actually share that student's screen out to other students if that's something you wanted to do. So one thing that this does is if you wanted what Jordan's looking at to go to everybody, you could hit this button and push it out that way. If you click on a student, you'll see this button here, share student stream to all, see the student stream. You can put class policies in place. You could dismiss them from the class. You can see what they're seeing in the moment, and then you can actually see a kind of timeline on the bottom. Now, other buttons that are kind of interesting on this page, if you scroll down, there's nothing really in there, but there's this Insights button. If you hit the Insights button, it will run a search engine query for that particular class and give you the web analytics. Sites they went to, how many times, how many warnings, average time on a particular site, installed extensions, etc. You can see categories, but what's kind of neat over here is if you hit the eyeglass here, you can do a filter. So for example, if you need a particular user, you can filter them. If you click on a kid, it will just look at that particular student in the moment. It does have an attendance component. I think that's pretty neat. You can refresh that and get new data as the class is going. And if we stop this, when you go back to the front page here, you can see all the class history as to who was there, when they were there, and you can always go back and view the analytics. And the analytics page lays out a little different than GoGuardian. And so, for example, if you want to click on a kid, you can see what they were doing, how long they were doing it. You get that information at any time. You can go to the whole group. You can go to an individual user. We remove the filters. We get everybody back. Now we're looking at everybody. Who did what did they do? Can even click on and see what site it was. So a lot of different buttons, a lot of different options. And like we said, you can class schedule from this point, or you can just run them impromptu. Once you're in the class, you have your preset areas up here. You've got various buttons. You can set different parameters and or do separate things like heads up. It's got to be started in order for you to see the students. And then you have options when hovering over in various spots and can also look at the particular student. So if you have questions, please let me know. And we will try out this product for about 2 weeks, and then we'll kind of go see where that takes us in terms of GoGuardian versus Blocksi. So any questions, please let me know.